Last week we talked about the doctrine of the Trinity, and the week before that we talked about Yeshua as the angel of the Lord, showing up as Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, like in Genesis 18. This is why this is such a good segue. Miguel says, I know you say that Yeshua is Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh in the Tanakh. Do you believe that Yeshua is always Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh in the Tanakh? I will answer that and say no, not necessarily.
Well, okay, we'll talk about that.
And he goes on. In other words, from reading the text, can a distinction be made when it is Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, the Father, speaking, and when Yeshua as Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh speaking? I know what I would say, and maybe I'll say what I would say, and then you can correct me, because that tends to happen most of the time. So my thought on this is that when we see the angel of the Lord, as we were talking about, or when we see a physical being show up in an angelic form or something like that, to come and give news. For instance, Joshua bows and worships the angel that comes to him. We have Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh showing up in the text we were just talking about, Genesis 18. When we see the physical presence of an angelic being or something like that show up and be Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, referred to as Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, or worshipped, or something like this, then I think it is clearly a pre-incarnate Yeshua. And then there are other times when we see things like, I think we see the Spirit we see the Spirit and the Father, I think. The Father comes in Exodus 33. He says, no one can see my glory and live, right? And he puts Moses in the cleft of the rock. I believe that would be a perfect example of the Father. We see the Spirit come in the pillar of smoke by day and fire by night when leading the Israelites out of Egypt. And so I think that we can see a clear distinction. Dad?
Well, yeah. Well, on your last comment there, we know that in Isaiah we have he says the angel of his face led you through. I'm paraphrasing. Led you through led you all the days. And so remember that in the Hebrew we don't have a word for presence. So when it says when Moshe is on the mountain and says, "Unless your presence goes with us, we don't want to go up out of Egypt," the Hebrew word there is face.
Face, yeah.
Yeah. So the angel of his presence is one of the terms that Isaiah uses. So the difficulty is when we try to find a nice, clear dividing mark between Father, Son, and Spirit. And I agree, Caleb, obviously, with the fact that when John says in the opening of his gospel, no one has seen God at any time, he's meaning that God is a spirit, and those who worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth, which he says in chapter 4. So basically, I agree with you that when Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh appears in a physical form, that is Yeshua. But the way the question was asked, in other words, I'm reading now from Miguel. In other words, from reading the text, can a distinction be made when it is Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, the Father speaking, and when is Yeshua as Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh speaking? When Yeshua speaks, he speaks the very things that the Father would speak.
Sure. Yeah.
And when the Father speaks, he speaks the things that Yeshua would speak. In fact,
this is the mystery of the Trinity.
Yeah, right. This is the mystery of the plurality and the Godhead, the Trinity, if we want to use that term, which is fine. I have no problem with it. But whenever the point that is made is that Yeshua was predestined. The providence of God had it from all eternity that he would send his Son, and he would send his Son in the form of a man. Now that happened at the time of his birth in Bethlehem, but what was different there, as opposed to what we find in these pre-theophanies or Christological appearances, if we want to use that term, in the Tanakh, is that when Yeshua came in the mystery of the Incarnation, when he came as a babe in Bethlehem, born through the woman Miriam as a virgin, he, from that point on, through the rest of eternity, retains his form of a man. Paul says there is one mediator between God and man, the man, Messiah Yeshua. That's the mystery. And even the greater mystery is this, and we shouldn't lose sight of this, that God would love sinners in terms of sending his son. And Paul makes a big point of this, doesn't he? He says, this is love, that God sent his son, all right? And even though he was rich, yet for our sake he became poor, so that through his riches we might be rich, even though impoverished through his riches. So the real mystery is, why would God do that? Did he need to do that? No. Did he need anything? No. Was he, we have to say was, but is he not in all time, in eternity, fully joyous, fully content, fully satisfied in all that he is? Yes, because he's infinite in all of his attributes. He didn't need anything. So why did he send his son, Yeshua, to die for us, to take upon himself the woes of this world, and even to become like us in terms of being a man? No one can explain that. No one can explain it.